I want to make sure that I don't come across like I'm the victim, because we have two victims here. And the second thing is that all of what happened on that day leading up to this event was precipitated on one idea, and that is that Helena and I had something profound in common. And that is, we both assumed the gun was empty. And she and I had this thing in common where we both thought it was empty, and it wasn't. And that's not her responsibility, that's not my responsibility. Whose responsibility is remains to be seen. But I do.
Well, there are some who say you're never supposed to point a gun at anyone on a set, no matter what.
Unless the person is the cinematographer who's directing me where to point the gun for her camera angle.
You are listening to the Roberta Glass True Crime Report, putting the true back in true crime. From New York City, Roberta Glass is now on the record.
Okay, how is everybody doing? Happy weekend. Hope you're having a good one. So today I wanted to talk about Alec Baldwin and his new legal filing, asking the court to just basically dismiss the whole thing. It's all a big conspiracy against Alec Baldwin. Everybody is conspiring against Alec Baldwin. No one cares about the truth of the matter and the law of the land, which is clearly in the Screen Actors Union's guidebook, that it's not his responsibility. About the gun, forget it, everybody. Close up shop, end of story. Close down the trial before it even happens, or in Alec Baldwin talk, close up the trial before it even happens. Yes, Alec Baldwin. And also want to give a shout out to the Pepinos and the Hilaria Baldwin Reddit. Boy, was I pleased to see my episode show up there. And they reminded me of a whole lot of history that I had forgotten about. All will be revealed today about the Splenda packet. The mystery is solved. Who wrote the Splenda packet? And we'll be reviewing that if you don't know what I'm talking about. Alec Baldwin's magical Splenda packet. But before we get into that, I want to get into your comments. You know, I really get so much out of your comments. Thank you so much. Everybody who wrote comments. I wish I could. Maybe I should do just a whole episode of your comments. Lori Bravo, 7823 says, Splenda is fake sugar. And that's exactly what the mystery woman was dealing. Funny, Lori. If she's real, she knows this and therefore won't come forward. Yeah, that's what's interesting, Lori, about Hannah's trial. And I think the whole Rust prosecutions or indictments. Indictments is a better way to put it. Is that no one was tested for substances. We don't know what was really going on that set. We have this one story of this small white powder bag of something that was thrown out on Hannah's part. But Alec Baldwin says he went out to dinner. Anybody remember that? She was my friend. We went out to dinner once. Kyle Dunnigan's great take on his real interview that he gave on the side of the road in Vermont, saying that We went out to dinner. What happened at that dinner? We don't know. Alec is so much, back to Lori's comment, Alec is so much of a dolt that he can't figure this out. And the more he brings it up, the more it makes me laugh. In the spirit of brotherly love, that's witting. Nice, Lori. Okay, this is a little bit of a longer one from AJ Henny. Baldwin's name meant nothing to me, but it certainly does now. The sheer egotistical self, serving, arrogance, and complete lack of basic understanding in that and other interviews shocked me so deeply. And then to listen to the equally patronizing comments from his wife. Isn't it unreal? And insensitive Instagram posts. I haven't even gone through the half of them, AJ and Annie. Shows how two toxic personalities intertwine into a poisonous plant. Great sentence. It amazes me that he ever found a career where it is so necessary to interact. Having so enjoyed being on stage since 5 and given the opportunities to continue in local theater, know how much one learns from the talent of those one works with, and that there is generally such a generosity between those on stage together. I think that's what you mean. Yes, there are those who try to be seen, but overall it remains a team. Having watched the trial, if an equally objectionable, still young woman, do you think they deserved each other? However, it was their lack of care that caused such deeply unnecessary sorrow and the loss of this talented lady. Thanks, AJ, for that. Yeah. The arrogance, that was a theme in all of your comments, the arrogance. I can't listen to him anymore. I can't listen to you. Even I think I said that I loved his voice and I enjoyed him as a comic actor, and he was a really talented comic actor. And I can't remember who wrote, I can't stand it. I can't even stand to hear you compliment him, because I just find him so insufferable. I really understand where you're coming from for that comment. Golf Mama Bear says, my hesitation with regards to Hannah's trial is Dave Hall's got a sweet deal when Dave handed the gun to Alec. And they gave Sarah a sweet deal too when she misfired a gun. Is that what Alec was going for when he was talking about the Splenda packet, a sweet deal? That's what he wanted, a sweet deal with his made-up story? I mean, there's just no way that that story is real. It's so convoluted and bizarre. He gets handed a Splenda packet at some sort of juice place, I believe. Then he loses it. Then he makes a Instagram 911 call out for the Splenda packet, and it's returned again. So it's given to him by a young woman. Then it's returned by a young woman who's a friend of the neighbors. Come on. And they gave Sarah a sweet deal too when she misfired a gun and threw away evidence. Important evidence too, Golf Mama Bear. Most likely live rounds provided by Seth Kenny. Why not charge Sarah, Pickle Lady, and Sarah and Seth Kenny too? Pickle Lady. So you're talking about the line producer? You think she should have been charged? Interesting. Very interesting. You're the first person I heard suggest that she should be charged. Certainly, her testimony was not great, but I'll return back to that after I read this. Hannah should not have gotten the same deal as Dave Hall, should have gotten the same deal as Dave Hall's, at least. If Alec gets away with this, justice was not served. Justice wasn't served with all these sweet deals. Hannah was negligent in many respects, but clearly she was made to be their scapegoat. Yeah, that I was bothered by that feeling watching the trial, and they're upset with her quality of work on the set not because of how she was dealing with the gun so much as that she wasn't doing her prop duties. They were like, you need to lock up those guns, but we really need you on props. And Dave Hall's testifying that he thought it was a safe set. And then Alec Baldwin comes in and says, we never had a problem. Everything was going great. All of it was up to their standards. And when you have such a young person working under a group of more experienced people, they really set the tone. I don't know. There's lots of things in that, but at minimum, if you take down the scope of the trial just to did she do her job, and did that cause a death? Was she part of the chain that caused a death? Yes. But was I uncomfortable with the investigation? Yes. Was I uncomfortable with the way that this was prosecuted? Yes. And that is, I think I could have knocked everyone over with a feather in my life with my reaction to that trial. Ridiculous. Alec Baldwin went off script. Yeah, more than once. Cocked the gun, put his finger on the trigger, pulled the trigger. Disgusting. Right. Everyone talks about the finger on the trigger and pulling the trigger, but let's talk about pointing, cocking, and then if your finger's even resting and you squeeze just by means of cocking, it's gone. I mean, those safety rules that you don't point your gun at anything that you don't want to destroy are there for a reason. So back to, what do you guys think? Should I do the legal filing first? Or should I do the Splenda packet stuff first? I guess we'll do the more important thing, which is, of course, the legal filing. So pages and pages, I might split this up. I read it all today, 59 pages, and it's the linked in the episode description. It's the deadline. And boy, do I love deadline.com, because they always put the legal filings in the stories that they write about, they always attach them. And I'm so grateful that they attach the whole legal filing. But it was an interesting legal filing. A couple interesting things that I noted. Let me pull them up 1 second, please. Just the general feeling of power, I would say, with Alec Baldwin's Miss Shorty gifted 5. Count them, 5 memberships. Thank you so much, Miss Jordy. I'm so glad that your channel is taking off and you're finally monetized, I hope. I know you've gotten your subscribers and you've gotten a ton of views in a very short amount of time. Congratulations. So memberships are going to be passed out at random. That's how it works, since Miss Shorty is so generous during this live. But I wanted to point out back to this legal filing, I wanted to point out some interesting stuff. So one, this narrative that Baldwin was being directed where to point the gun. And in this filing, it says, so we heard, if you've been following my Alec Baldwin episodes, and yes, I am a little bit obsessed, and maybe we'll talk about that in a second, why I find them so fascinating, is that they're saying that Helena Hutchins was guiding Alec Baldwin through the motions that ended her life. That's the way Alec Baldwin puts it. And then in this legal filing, it makes mention of the fact that they both thought the gun was empty. So if you listen back to my other episodes, we know that Alec Baldwin had a conversation with a detective on this case saying, I'm not getting any work. Not that he was devastated that he had taken a life, but no, that he wasn't getting any work and he needed to do an interview, even though she warned him not to do it, told them it wasn't in his interest or interest of the investigation to do the George Stephanopoulos interview. And boy, is some of that, and we're going to look at that today too, amazing in retrospect. Just amazing is how insensitive he was. Oh my law. But the same language that the lawyers are using. So he went to his lawyers and they gave him a script. You both thought the gun was empty. You had something profound in common. She was guiding you through the motions. Basically, the ultimate victim blaming. Helena Hutchins, if she wasn't so insistent on guiding you through the motions, but Alec Baldwin in that same, in his police interview, I can't remember if it's in that conversation, but I believe it's in his police interview, says, oh no, there was no need for me to fire a gun. We weren't practicing that scene. All I had to do was pull it out of the holster. There was no need to point it and fire or cock and fire or point the gun at the camera at all. And there he is the day before saying, I don't want to point, I don't want you guys to be, I don't want to point the gun at anyone. So like I've always asked in this, what happened between, I don't want to point the gun at anyone, and I'm really comfortable, so comfortable, I'm going to cock the gun, point it, I'm going to point the gun, cock the gun, and fire the next day. We know that many people had walked off the set with safety concerns, not just concerns about guns going off, misfiring, Sarah Zachary's misfire, not just that, but their accommodations being so far away from the set, an hour away, that they had to drive in the dark on unfamiliar roads to get to the set. But he was like, oh, I can't, that would be $180,000. I'm not going to pay that. It's just the hypocrisy. Yet he'll sign on to these other people who are unhappy at sets, who want more money, but not him. When it's him, he's not going to join in. This was particularly interesting. This is something I didn't hear about in the Russ trial, but maybe I missed it. Let me know if I missed it. Text messages between Zachary, meaning Sarah Zachary, Hannah Gutierrez-Reed, and Seth Kenney, the film's ammunition supplier. So Seth Kenney was the ammunition supplier. It is believed that he sold Hannah Gutierrez-Reed's father the ammunition, that's where the live ammunition came from. That's the thinking, even though he denies it, which contained evidence that Gutierrez, they all went target practicing together. So there's text messages talking about going target practicing on the set. Now, this was something that came out in the press after this fatal accident, is that there was target practice going on the set. Doesn't that all make a whole lot more sense now, given the characters involved? And that was what I was feeling watching it. Oh, get rid of everything. Get Sarah Zachary. Get rid of the evidence. One of those could be live. She knew they could be live because she was engaging in this. But, I haven't seen the text messages. We know these defense attorneys can make up stuff. Let's wait and see if this is true. Very interesting if it is. And that unbeknownst to Baldwin, Gutierrez-Reed consistently failed to follow proper safety protocols. So now they're just sort of like, forget everybody else. It's just Gutierrez-Reed. Doesn't matter that Zachary got rid of evidence, blah, blah, blah. So kind of interesting. Other complaints in the filing, that Carrie Morrissey was giving interviews to the press. suggesting, basically turning the American public against him, which was one of my problems with her during the trial. She was giving interviews. Why can't we let these things play out in court on both parts? And I believe Alec Baldwin started a PR exercise right away. We had Rust Movie Facts on Twitter, Rust Movie Facts on Reddit, all saying Alec Baldwin was handed the gun and blah, blah, blah. But I'm going to take a real quickie break Tuesday. Thank you so much for this super sticker. It's good to see you here. I'm going to take a quickie break. We're going to go over the history of the Splendid packet, Alec Baldwin's inappropriate, insensitive drawing. Is that the clue to the Splenda packet? Gonna leave. Is it the clue to the Splenda packet? I don't know, but what's clear from this filing? That Alec Baldwin...
I know how to win the hard way.
Thank you. Yeah, that's what he's saying. I know how to win the hard way. I've got a team of really, 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 really expensive lawyers. And if you think that this is going to be an easy trial, and we're going to hear about these SAG rules, how in the Screen Actors Guild, the SAG rules, as if the SAG rules rule the land, that it's okay for actors that they rely on the assistant director, meaning Dave Halls and Hannah Gutierrez-Reed, and they can point the gun, fire it away, do anything they want. And that the armorer that we saw testify in Hannah's trial, because he produced films that weren't released, or meaning they weren't bought, when he described himself as a producer, he wasn't really a producer. I mean, some of this stuff is kind of absurd in this filing. Others of it, if it's true, will be interesting to see. So I'm going to take a quickie break. When we get back from the break, the Splenda packet solved. Don't go anywhere. If you are enjoying this episode of my True Crime Report, please hit the thumbs up, subscribe to the channel, and share this episode. Get access to exclusive podcasts and other bonus content by becoming a patron today. If you have a question or comment for me, shoot me a super chat, and I'll do my best to answer it and read it on air. Thanks so much. Now back to the show. So I had forgotten all about the Splenda packet. And I'd forgotten about this channel, Pockets of the Future. And he does these great Alec Baldwin videos. He's one of those channels that I really only want to listen to him talk about Alec Baldwin. I don't have much interest in anything else that he covers. But he covered, the crazy Splenda packet. So I thought I'd show you some of it, and it's really funny about the whole thing. So
miracle.
Listen.
And as always,
so it's a miracle. The Alec Baldwin. I hope this isn't too many pots in the kitchen doing a reaction video on a reaction video. Actually, let me just move this so you can get a close up of Alec Baldwin's face here. But I thought some of his observations were interesting, and just to review what this whole Splenda packet is all about.
Always he starts off touching his face and collecting his thoughts and running his fingers through his hair. He's looking pretty rough. This eye is definitely a lot more closed than that eye. Big, giant, colossal cursor nose.
Went to my friend's house, my friend David's house this morning.
He went to his friend David's house.
He came out with his daughter, who's dear friends with my daughter.
You didn't shoot her, right? You didn't shoot her.
Carmen, and he had a very unusual countenance to him.
He had sort of a countenance today, an unusual one.
And he and his daughter proceeded to tell me a story.
They thought they're storytellers. Tell me you didn't shoot him, please. Tell me you didn't shoot him.
That their neighbor, who lives 2 doors down from them, went to a store, like a takeout food place, organic.
He needs to close his eyes and concentrate because it's a big time story here.
A crush out east here, and the woman who's their neighbor, she found this.
Splenda. They found Splenda. Amazing. I thought it was going to be, a bullet or some evidence or something.
I can't. She
found it.
Found the Splenda packet. She found the Splenda packet.
I guess there's a backstory to this Splenda fat packet that I'm not aware of.
Okay, so just to give you the backstory a little bit, it says, sorry, I had to turn on my air conditioner. I hope it's not too loud for you guys, but I'm dying in here. The sun is beaming in and I'm dying. So if it sounds like I'm in a submarine, or that's what that is. But so what it is with the Splenda packet, actually, let's listen to a little bit more of it. But really, so what he was thinking about during this time is that the Stephanopoulos interview did not work. It backfired. We're going to take a look at that today. And he wanted it was sort of a call for everyone to be nice to him, that he got a nice comment, always from a young girl. Many of you picked that out. Very good eye, something I missed, which was that he got it from a young girl, then it's returned by a young girl, always a young girl. It's not like a middle-aged woman like myself finding it or giving it to him, who would more likely be a fan of his. Let's face it, Alec Baldwin's heyday is not now, okay? And that's what's so funny. I was thinking this morning about him running around in rust, and he looks like a New York actor in Western gear, huffing and puffing up this hill with these guns. He's so out of shape and just, and I was like, there's no parts for 70-year-old actresses who are cowgirls, doing this real physical fighting stuff. I mean, I know that women are different. We have a different, I don't know what you call it. What would you call that? Archetypes. There's different female archetypes, and the cowgirl in that way isn't one of them. But in the same way, we don't see 70-year-old action stars or doing stuff. He just looks like someone who smokes a lot of cigarettes. And then in this other Instagram thing, he's talking about all these cigarettes that he quit smoking cigarettes. He used to smoke on the set. He's going into like all this detail about how he quit smoking. And I'm thinking here, I'm going, he obviously is still smoking, because he's going into such detail about it. How just on the set, when he's so worried about shooting and whatever. And then in this legal filing today, it talks about the assistant director, how he testified to the grand jury that Alec Baldwin was using the assistant cameraman's monitor as a stand for his ashtray for his cigars. So I called it. He's still smoking cigars, I guess, now. And they totally objected, and that was terrible and untrue about these cigars and using it as a stand anyway. So this was like sort of his inappropriate Instagram post, as the great Kyle Dunnigan, the comedian, called it, a call to arms for everyone to be nice to Alec Baldwin, because he's going through a hard time and he's really suffering because he came off as so callous and arrogant in the George Stephanopoulos interview. If you watch my opening, here he is. He has his fixed story. He's telling it twice. So, and he didn't know they'd use it. He thought, oh, they'll use one of the times. I said, we had something profound. Helena and I shared something profound in common. We both thought the gun was empty. And then he does it again. We're like, Alec Baldwin, we've heard that line. It's like someone said to him, like, wrong line reading. Try again, right? So this is the Splenda packet.
You are 100% true. Thanks for the laughs, good sir. Cheers to a new year. Love you. It's the Splenda packet.
He obviously has talked about this before. We're not privy to it. You can see he's shaded his one. He's got his one Illuminati eye here.
Does this mean 2022 is going to be a good year?
No, Alex. Yes, Alec is smoking the opium.
Wouldn't that be nice?
He's smoking hard on that opium.
Anyway, that is nothing short of a miracle. I'm going to find out his neighbor's name and I'm going to send her a gift.
How about a sweet and low packet?
I mean, can you believe something as silly as this has that much value? Putting it in pockets now, like I'll never.
He may be a big A-list star, but the little things, like an encouraging word from a young woman, still means so much to him. So much to this A-list, very important star, that the A-list star is going to send them a gift. I mean, come on. I mean, we could go back to this. It's really fun. But I do want to show you the pepinos at the Hillary Baldwin Reddit forum. It's called Hilaria Baldwin. Hilaria. There's no H. Baldwin reminded me of Splendagate. In this inappropriate, so Hilaria Baldwin or Hillary Baldwin, I don't know why I have to call her by her made-up name, so I'm not going to. Hillary Baldwin from Massachusetts put this up, his wife, this picture of Alec Baldwin, and this is right after Helena Hutchins' the fatal accident that took her life. So hold on. So I just want to show you this story. Hold on, guys. Let me set this up a little bit better. One second. Please hold. I would love to have someone do these things for me. I'm so slow at it. So Hilaria Baldwin, the post, bizarre photo of Alec Baldwin holding up a drawing of him, saying to her, "Oh God, please help me, I'm dying." This is something, speaking of, shout out to you, Tuesday, that we talked about a long time ago when this just happened. And so this is a drawing that he drew. So here's Alec Baldwin, and that's supposed to be Hillary saying, "May I help you?" And then on the next, it's a cartoon, I guess. I wonder if you flip it real fast, does it move? "Oh God, please help me, I'm dying." You know, like one of those old flip books. You can make like a little movie if you flip the book with your thumb. "Do I know you?" She's standing over him. Does everybody see that? And she put that up on her Instagram, one of her inappropriate, insensitive, and callous Instagram posts, which make, one of the reasons that makes them so hateable, in addition to they're still going on with this Spanish grift. Like I've said before, I don't know why they just don't say, "Hey, it was fun for us. We had fun with it. Sorry if we offended anyone." But she's still talking in that accent. All right. Back to Miss Shorty. Oh my. It's like, it's the day of membership. It's the Saturday day of memberships, everybody. Shorty gifted 5. Thank you so much, Miss Shorty. So kind of you. So those will be distributed at random by YouTube. Thanks to Miss Shorty's generosity. Check out her channel if you haven't already, especially great shorts, especially on the Adelson case, which I get it. If I think a lot of my audience is like I am with Pockets of the Future. They just want me to talk about the Adelson case maybe every day, or it's the Dan Markel case every day. But I've just gotten so taken in with this Alec Baldwin stuff. Splendagate. So let's go back to Splendagate and the fine Pepinos. So thanks to some fine sleuthing, it's coming to light that Alec might have been the person who wrote the note on the Splenda packet. Pretty shocking, no? Alec Baldwin wrote this Splenda pack. I mean, can you imagine what a crazy mind? I mean, if you think he's not crazy enough to do this.
Well, think again.
Thank you so much, Joan Crawford or Faye Dunaway. Yeah. So, because they compared the handwriting on this drawing to the Splenda packet. Let's go back to that. Oh, that's the drawing on the Splenda packet. What do you guys think? All right. So Splenda packet, Alec Baldwin's handwriting. Like I said last episode, I wanted a forensic markup of it. Look at that. I mean, it's exact pretty much. I mean, to my eye, no. Even the drawing is kind of similar. Look at the W's and the M's. Well, I don't know if there is a W, let's say. Is there a W? Yeah, look at the W in no. I'm doing forensic breakdown of the Splenda packet. And the W in New Year. Maybe I should do a whole episode on the Splenda packet, a forensic breakdown. What do you guys think? So is that shocking? I think that shocked no one, but I found it pretty interesting that at least there's a little bit more proof around the Splenda packet. So let's go listen to a little bit more of the Splenda packet story.
He lost it. When did he lose the Splenda packet? Where's the other? You gotta fill us in, Alec. We're left in the dark here.
But anyway, oh my God.
It's a miracle.
Oh my God. That's amazing. That's a miracle.
It's a miracle. Finding something you lost in your neighborhood is a miracle.
One other quick note. Any suggestion that I am not complying with requests or orders or demands or search warrants about my phone, that's bullshit. That's a lie.
He's saying that that's bullshit, that's a lie, but we do know that he did a lot of legal resistance to handing over his phone. I'm not going to get down on him for that. That's his right. But all this idea that I'll just gladly hand over my phone. So you want to look at the Splenda gate one more time? All right, so everybody says look at the Y. All right, hold on, the Y. Here's a Y in year. And may I help you? Kind of very similar. So it's a little bit of a shallower cap. I mean, I'd have to send it. Should I start a fund to get a handwriting analysis on this? On the Splenda packet? To my eye, it looks very similar. And the whole feel of it. And if we can go over the Alec Baldwin phone calls, and I'll turn them down this time so I won't blow out your eardrums. But yeah, one more time. Splenda packet. Drawing. How about the H? Is there an H? Yes, so similar H's too. If that's an H, or if that may be thanks. It's hard to read. Good sir. I mean, just the fact, to me, it's more the language. What young person says good sir? That sounds like Alec Baldwin talking, good sir. Good sir. No. All right, a little bit more of the Splenda story.
It's just a lie. I'll swear on my Splenda packet.
This is a process where one state makes the request of another state. Someone from another state can't come to you and say, give me your phone, give me this, give me that. They can't do that. They've got to go through the state you live in. That is a process that takes time.
It's called extradition of Alec's cell phone. I hear that they also want your Splenda packet.
They have to specify what exactly they want. You can't just go through your phone and take, your photos or your love letters to your wife or what have you. I really don't know, but but of course we are 1,000% going to comply with all that.
He's going to comply.
Yeah, they don't want his foreplay Spanish play with his wife. His Spanish play text revealed with his wife, where she's speaking to him in Spanish. I mean, I don't want to see that. I don't know anybody who does. Anybody know the story of Alec Baldwin's stalker? I was catching up on that the other night. Pretty interesting stuff. She's nuts. Totally nuts. But I don't believe Alec Baldwin that their relation, it's really a relationship started, let me finish my sentence, started as professional. It seemed like she was very young and blonde and beautiful and seemed very much his type. Not that men, they have to be a type for Alec Baldwin. It seems that they have to be Spanish if they're going to have dark hair for him. And she was happy, and she's French, maybe French Canadian. Am I wrong about that? I think she's French Canadian or French. And she tells the story on her YouTube, and the disorganized thinking. It's wild. But I believe that he got called out in a few lies on the stand. But what this filing made me very afraid of, and what I think we're going to see in this trial, is a lot of references to this SAG manual, as if it's the law, or as if it's the law for gun safety. And if the state is smart, they will be hammering home the idea that Alec Baldwin was the producer, that it wasn't just this one action, just like they said with Hannah. It wasn't just that she accidentally loaded a bullet one day at a time, that she neglected to keep up any kind of real safety protocols on the set. And I think they will hammer him as the producer. And what I found so effective about Hannah's trial in relation to Alec was that he was clearly running the show. He was the one they went to when they wanted more money. He was the one when they wanted better accommodations. He was the one saying, oh no, we're not going to shoot here where they scouted a location on the hill. We're going to shoot here because ironically, I care about the cameraman's safety, because I believe the cameraman fell that day. But at the same time he's saying that, he's pointing with his gun to demonstrate with his gun, using his gun as a pointer, firing off rounds that aren't in the script. And certainly that fatal shot was a bit of improvisation that we don't know where it came from. Kind of reminds me of the Kids in the Hall, very old reference, that I'm crushing your heads kind of thing. Was he bored and just imagining what it would be like? I have no idea. But no one else but Alec Baldwin has said that Helena Hutchins was guiding him through the motions, and insisting that he point the gun at her. That's certainly, and so I think he will take the stand. If this filing is any indication, he will most likely take the stand. We're going to see a lot of crying and acting and boo-hooing.
Perfectly fine with that. And but the as I always say, consider the source. The people that tell you.
Yes, consider the source. We've heard this before. Where have I heard that before? I know I've heard it, but I'm not actually sure where I heard it. Maybe I heard it here.
Consider the source.
Oh, she's a white girl? Yes, I am a white girl. I am a white girl.
So, for example, my wife's on the phone with her hairdresser or her friend. She's like, really? Okay, I can't wait to see you. That's going to be great. Fantastic. What time? 12 o'clock? My wife is from Spain. Mm-hmm. And she said, blah, blah, blah.
We have very few ingredients. We have tomatoes. We have, how do you say anything? Cucumbers. We have red pepper. We have, of course.
It's not easy, and I think part of it is that I'm in shape before I have a baby, and then I stay active when I'm pregnant, and I'm not trying to stay thin. I'm just trying to keep my circulation going and stretching and keep my muscle tone up. And then we're having a baby. It was a surprise, a wonderful surprise.
And one time at band camp.
It was a surprise, a wonderful surprise.
And one time at band camp.
It was a surprise, a wonderful surprise.
Well, there was a scream I heard, which is the scream that's normally reserved if there's a spider in the house on Long Island. I'm not exaggerating.
So the first part of the book is philosophy on how to live very namaste. I have 3 little babies. I live kind of a crazy life between work and them and everything else. So it's just, how to stay calm and centered and deal with things that are coming at you. Then we could talk about food. Well, we're having a baby. How about that for a project?
Ay, ay, ay.
Cravings here, okay.
Sí.
Ay, ay, ay.
Sí.
Ay, ay, ay.
Sí. Consider the source.
Oh, she's a white girl? Yes, I am a white girl. I am.
So a great compilation of Hillary Baldwin and her Spanish grift. But why I think that is important to this whole story is because I think if you've been watching my channel, there's such a pattern of Alec Baldwin when he gets caught doing something wrong. Not saying, hey, yeah. Saying, no, I didn't do that. When it's so obvious, he's so buffoonish. And he seems so afraid of being made to look ridiculous. And he has no sense of himself that he does look buffoonish and ridiculous. His anger is over the top. His denials are over the top. His politicizing anyone who doesn't believe his Splenda story has to be a part of or his Hilaria, his Spanish grift and the whole Hilaria, Hillary Baldwin thing is some kind of right-wing, far-right January 6th of it all. To politicize that? Come on. I mean, remember when we used to have political debate? Now you just have to say January 6th and anything that, you know what I mean? A nut, this kind of on both sides, this real polarization and lack of understanding. But when it comes from his side, they're the ones who are saying we're so inclusive and all accepting, and makes it so much more hypocritical.
I'm a white girl.
Sidney Poitier died.
He choked on a Splenda packet.
The cover of the Daily News and the cover of the Post has something else. Sidney Poitier, one of the icons of this business, one of the kings, movie royalty, dies, and on the cover of the Post they have other lies and bullshit and nonsense.
Exactly. Things about you and your cell phone that I just covered. I actually covered this story from the Post. He doesn't like the Post. Post doesn't like him. But they both
Right, because no one in New York really likes him because he hasn't been a good neighbor. When you're a good neighbor, for example, and this does JFK Jr. he treated people well. He was so beloved. And during his time, he was like the unofficial mayor of the city. Just beloved by anyone on all political spectrums. Even people who hated the Kennedy family loved him. But people like Alec Baldwin, who are not kind, who are not nice to their neighbors, and who make these spectacles and embarrass themselves and are so arrogant, are not liked in New York. Even though he lives, this is his hometown. And we tend to favor people who live here and not Hollywood. So I think that's it for it. Should we go a little bit more for the Splenda story, I think?
The best way, the only way we can honor the death of Helena Hutchins is to find out the truth.
Yeah.
You know, it's another way we can honor. I think that's a good way to leave it for now. I may come back to this. This is a great episode by Pockets of the Future. Please do more Alec Baldwin episodes. So much fun. I really don't want him to talk about anything else. Is the way you can honor her. There's actually another way to honor her, and it's in the description of this episode. The Helena Hutchins Scholarship Fund. You can donate here through the American Film Institute. That's a better way. Basically, he was saying the only way that you can honor her is by dropping these charges, which they did before they brought them back. There's a lot in the filing about how they were dropped and how they were brought back and promises made by Carrie Morrissey. It's a lot of YouTube references. I mean, what do you call those? They're not endnotes, they're citations in the filing. But I reached out to my legal lawyer who watches the show, knows a lot about the law, just to ask him about grand juries and stuff. So I may be returning to this. This may just be one part. But before I go, I wanted to touch on one other thing, which was, of course, I think it's been a while since we all listened to the George Stephanopoulos interview. So it's really interesting in retrospect in that we know so much more about what happened on set thanks to Hannah Gutierrez Reed's trial. So let's take a look. This is the third part of it. And of course, like if you saw the opening, it goes back to that same story. We had something profound in common.
Tonight, breaking news.
A fatal shooting on the set of Alec Baldwin's new movie in New Mexico.
Something went horribly wrong here in Santa Fe.
We've all seen that picture of you off the set in that hour or so after the gun went off. What were you?
Yeah, I have some real questions about that picture. Because we know that when he was in the police interview, he's telling his wife, and granted, he didn't know that Helena Hutchins had passed, but he knew she had been airlifted, and he's calling his wife, Hillary Baldwin, and saying, come down here, it's all paid for. And keep that in mind, it's all paid for, okay? It's going to connect to something else. Something else I have to show you. This may be the longest episode in show history. If I get to everything that I want, I may save it for another day, but let's see what we can get through. So he wasn't bent over in guilt, and grief. And he says he told Stephanopoulos he had no guilt. And I think he was honest there. I don't think he has much guilt. And Stephanopoulos, you can just see the back of his head when he goes, we had something profound. Helena and I had something profound in common. And you can see George Stephanopoulos, like his ears prick and his head turns. You can just see the back of his head turn, like a cartoonish dog with his head tilted to the right. And he's like, we both thought the gun was empty. And Stephanopoulos was like, oh, that That's what you had in common? that stupid line? And how many times are you going to use it? At least twice.
Doing what was going through your mind.
At the end of, she was laying there, and she was there for a while. I was amazed at how long they didn't get her in a car and get her up, but they waited and a helicopter came. And by the time the helicopter took off with her and literally lifted off, we were all glued to that process outside. When she finally left,
I'm trying to pull up tears here. Unfortunately, I'm dry. Do you have an onion I can use? I need to bring up some tears here.
I don't know how long it was. She was there 30 minutes, 40 minutes. It seemed like a very long time. But they kept saying, well, she's stable. Like nobody, just as you disbelieved that there was a live round in the gun, you disbelieved that this was going to be a fatal accident.
So you didn't know exactly how serious it was?
At the very end of my interview with the sheriff's department, they said to me, we regret to tell you that she didn't make it, she died. They told me right then and there. And that's when I went in the parking lot and called my wife to talk to my wife.
You know, and he's saying to the police, it's all working great. That, you know, he didn't show any dissatisfaction with the armorer's job. The anger at Hannah, you know, is obviously trying to pin it all. Oh, she just hands me the gun and he does this. And we all do it to SAG rules, as if SAG rules rule the land, as if they're the law of the land. And if you're not a producer and you weren't running the show and you weren't doing this set, running this set in a really unsafe way, but these lawyers look pretty good from this filing. Very strong. Maybe tomorrow we can go over it. Really go through it with a fine tooth comb. There's a lot of really interesting stuff in it that I haven't touched on.
Shock and grief. Helena's husband, Matthew, posted a tribute to Helena. Helena inspired us all with her passion and vision, and her legacy is too meaningful to encapsulate in words. Our loss is enormous.
When this happened, her husband comes to town, her husband, Matthew. And I met with him and their son. And he was as kind as you could be.
I can say Matthew's name, but he rarely says Helena Hutchins' name. And then there's some clips that were very interesting in Hannah Gutierrez Reed's trial, where he says, Helena, out of the way. Like he's sharp with her. Same way he's sharp with Hannah. What was going on between those two? And if I had to guess, I mean, I don't know. I mean, I'll just speculate. This is pure speculation. Is that she had the respect of the crew members. And he really wanted to be the captain of the ship. Here he was, but I think she was a threat to his power. And I wonder, of course, you have to wonder, she was a beautiful, beautiful woman and blonde, seemed to like. What happened? Was there some kind of, he's away from his wife and kids. Was there some kind of past made that she rejected him? But he never says her name. Very rarely. Even you can tell he's been so coached in this interview by his lawyers. And what was so fascinating was reading how close the filing was to his narrative. They really gave him the script before this interview, what to say.
What can you possibly say to him?
I didn't know what to say. He hugged me and he goes, I suppose you and I are going to go through this together, he said. And I thought, well, not as much as you are, you know. And his little boy is there who's 9 years old. I have 6 kids now. I have my older daughter, Ireland, but of the 6 kids that Ilaria and I have, my oldest is 8. I have a 9-month-old baby. And I think to myself, this little boy.
Helena, excuse me.
Doesn't have a mother anymore.
Did I say you didn't say Hannah's name? Helena. Gosh, that's horrible. Helena Hutchins. A little boy doesn't have a father anymore. Some interesting things about his father was a riflery coach. And what was interesting about his police interview, he's like listing off all the things about the guns and the bullets and the difference in the bullets and the dummies and the blanks. And it seems like they made a big issue in this filing that the state said that even blanks are dangerous when fired. But this wasn't a blank, it was a dummy, meaning it was just there. So it looked like there were bullets for the, I don't know, for the keen eyes in the audience wouldn't say, oh, that the chamber is emptying the gun. I wouldn't notice. They could they could use a squirt gun and I probably wouldn't notice. Water pistol and I wouldn't notice, and I wouldn't care. But I believe that this will change the way that guns are used on sets in the same way that, unfortunately, it didn't. The Crow and Brandon Lee's tragic death changed the awareness of safety. Strangely, the Twilight Zone accident seemed to have where 3 people died, including Vic Morrow, Jennifer Jason Leigh's dad, and 2 children, seemed to have some effect on John Landis's career, but not really. Not as much as it should. I mean, that was like the OJ trial before OJ. What a bamboozling of the jury that was.
And I know that in my life, I'm with my kids, and I'm doing quite well with my kids. My kids and I are having a great time, right until my wife walks in the room, and then I become invisible. My kids all go and they jump on top of their mother. And this boy doesn't have a mother anymore. And there's nothing we can do to bring her back. And I told him, I said, I don't know what to say.
This is something you hear, excuse me. This is a kind of line you hear so often in convicted killers' interviews from prison. I can't say I'm sorry, won't bring her back, sorry, won't bring her back, nothing will bring her back. And I recognize that must be a feeling. But it's just interesting that that's a narrative you hear all the time, meaning nothing I can do. My regret, I think it's something they must tell themselves. My regret or my bad feelings aren't going to bring them back. You know, Robert Durst's friends told each other, well, Kathy is gone, but Robert Durst, so if you were friends with both of them, we can't do anything for Kathy. Nothing's going to bring her back, but Robert's still living. So I guess that must be what he tells himself. Helena Hutchins is gone, but I'm still living. So my sad feelings, the lack of my tears aren't gonna, my tears aren't gonna bring her back. My sorry feelings, so I better have a good time. Hey, Hillary, come up to the set. It's all paid for. And he even sounds like he's trying to get the nanny or Hillary's friend to convince her. The police interview.
I don't know how to convey to you how sorry I am and how I'm willing to do anything I can to cooperate.
In the aftermath of the shooting, a torrent of criticism.
The first thing you do when you pick up that gun is you make sure that it's never pointed at anybody.
He should have known that an AD handing you a gun and saying it's cold isn't the same as several people showing you an empty gun.
If I were holding that gun, I would have checked it, wouldn't you?
Mm-hmm. People said to me, I got countless people online saying, you idiot, you never point a gun at someone. Well, unless you're told it's empty, and it's the director of photography who's instructing you on the angle for a shot we're going to do.
So very angry towards Helena Hutchins. A lot of anger we see again towards her. Victim blaming. If she hadn't made me do this, but no one but Alec Baldwin says this actually happened. Is he convinced himself? I mean, is what we're witnessing here the power of belief that you can convince yourself of these things? Or does he probably knows what happens, just trying to convince everyone else? I really think that inside the mind of Alec Baldwin, it doesn't go too deep. It's pretty much Alec Baldwin and not Alec Baldwin. And the people that, like Woody Allen and his famous friends. And he says in his police interview, you live a narrow life. And that's exactly what he lives. He lives a narrow life. He lives a life in a bubble. These people think, like I've said before, very much like the Devil Wears Prada. Everybody wants this. Everyone wants to be us. I wouldn't want to be with Alec. Forget his $17 million house. I would not want to be with him, around him, for $17 million or anything else that, the $17 million house or anything else that he has. And this anger towards the paparazzi, like I said, I stood next to him at the opera. No one bothered him. Not one person went up to him that I saw. And I was standing right next to him, waiting to get our bags checked and hand over our tickets at the Met.
And she and I had this thing in common where we both thought it was empty, and it wasn't. And that's not her responsibility. That's not my responsibility. Whose responsibility is?
So if the gun had been checked, I could just go around pointing it at people, cocking back the gun, and firing at random. That's what everybody should do, guys. Don't you know that that's the Alec Baldwin rules of safety? If someone tells you it's empty, you can point it at someone, cock the gun and fire. Especially when there's a whole group of people in very close range. That's a great idea to do, because people should be competent at their jobs and should be checking for you, because they should be checking for me, the all-important star. These are Alec Baldwin's new gun safety rules.
Remains to be seen.
There are some who say you're never supposed to point a gun at anyone on a set, no matter what.
There's some who say, try everybody but Alec Baldwin says that. Some say this. Sources, it's like the newspaper. Sources say you're not supposed to point a gun at anything you don't destroy. Sources say. Yeah, those are all just right-wing nutcases who say you can't point a gun. All the non-January 6th type people know that you can point a gun at with a bandit.
Unless the person is the cinematographer who's directing me where to point the gun for her camera angle.
Oh, he looks like he's going to get up and beat up George Stephanopoulos right there. How much would you love if he just starts wrecking the room there? Right then and there.
That's exactly what happened. That day, I did exactly what I've done every day on that movie.
Which is what?
Which is that there's an armorer there, and that word is new to me. In the years I've been in this
What did you call
it? I'm used to waving the gun around, cocking a gun, pointing it, firing it off. But he knows what he did is wrong, because we have him saying he didn't even cock the gun or dry fire it, or because he didn't want to damage other people's property. He's so conscientious of not Alec Baldwin, meaning other people, not Alec Baldwin's. You don't do that with not Alec Baldwin's property, right? Cock the gun and dry fire it. He knew he did wrong. He's lying about that. He's lying about this whole choreographed, a little lower, little higher nonsense.
It was a prop guy or woman. And the prop person would come, and sometimes they would insist on demonstrating for you and the camera crew. They take the gun, if it was a contemporary gun, they show you the chamber, they show you the clip, they'd say, the gun is cold. And you look at it and go, thank you. And in the 40 years...
Sometimes that would happen. Not all the time.
Well, but no, sometimes they wouldn't demonstrate to me. Some insisted on demonstrating. They would do the demonstration for everybody there right before we rolled the camera. or rehearsed. Then there were others who they didn't do that because I trusted them to do the job. And again, this is not just me pointing a gun at somebody else, people pointing guns at me. I've gotten shot and killed in films before where people had to shoot a flash round at me, and I trusted them to do their...
Yeah, why is everyone so sad about Helena Hutchins? I was shot and killed in films before. My character died. You'll never see that character on screen again unless they do a prequel. Why isn't anyone crying for me? This is outrageous. I had to play acting. I had to act being dead. Come on, guys. Where's the sympathy for me?
Their job. And in the 40 years I've been in this business, all the way up until that day, I never had a problem.
How many times do you think you handled a gun in those 40 years?
Oh, God, I don't know. What amazes me is how many rounds of bullets do you believe have been fired on the sets of movies and TV shows in the last 75 years?
No idea.
Right. It could even be above 1 billion.
See, this didn't happen because of my recklessness. This happened because it was its time. It was its time for bullets to come out of guns. It hadn't happened in a long time. Not my actions. It was a 1 in a zillion accident. Had nothing to do with the fact that this whole Rust set stunk of failure. People either on the bottom rungs of Hollywood trying to climb their ways up, or people who had fallen down to the bottom rungs trying to climb their way up. And I think I might just end this here, maybe come back tomorrow and deal more with this, maybe return to it. But there's a lot more that I didn't get to, and I feel like we're kind of, well, I'll do it maybe 10 more minutes. 10 more minutes of Alec Baldwin, we'll say. But there's a lot more of his whole history of being a prima donna on sets, in plays, that I missed. Shout out Pepinos to you for pointing that out, that I missed a whole bunch of stuff. So I don't think that people were dying to work with Alec Baldwin at this point, as definitely not as a lead actor. Certainly his age was a factor, but this behavior. Who is that Tears of Endearment actress that I'm thinking about? Who's also in An Officer and a Gentleman. Help me out. She was huge. In the 80s, she was everywhere. But she was so difficult that she basically difficulted herself out. Hey, Dr. Zap. Yes, 10 more minutes. Okay, Dr. Zap. 10 more minutes. Thank you. Thank you so much for your super chat. I appreciate it. It makes it possible for me to do these and spend so much time preparing for these live streams. Debra Winger is who I'm thinking of. Yes, thank you, Lolly and Looper. Debra Winger. I remember hearing about her being so difficult in her heyday. Of course, if you don't know, I was raised, my father worked in this business, my godmother worked in this business, and I would hear about how difficult she was. And then all of a sudden, you didn't see her anymore. You don't even see her really in bit parts anymore. I think there was a documentary trying to rewrite that narrative, but I'm pretty sure that did contribute, and she was fantastic. Thank you, Chateau. You're right. She was brilliant. Great actress, but insanely difficult to work with. And they didn't want to deal with someone like that who was so difficult, and it takes shot after shot and tons of money. I mean, if you watched, I hate to even bring it up, the Johnny Depp Amber Heard trial, we heard all about how difficult he was, and Pirates of the Caribbean, how he wasn't asked back, even though he was the big draw. So you have you really do have to work at a certain level of professionalism. But what Alec Baldwin, what you get from this legal filing is that Alec Baldwin is gonna really fight this very, very hard, and I think he probably will get off. I worry. Let's just put it that way. You never can predict a jury or never predict a trial, but when Hollywood actors and celebrity comes into a trial, it gets very unfair. First of all, Hollywood people their ethics, their moral compass, not known for their moral compass. So perjury doesn't mean a lot to them. So I think they may be prone to lying under oath more than the next person, especially if they want to continue their career. But Alec Baldwin's gonna fight this very hard, and
I know how to win the hard way.
He does know how to win the hard way.
You've had hundreds and hundreds of millions of bullets fired on the sets of films and TV shows, and 4 or 5 people were killed. Now those deaths are tragic and abhorrent, and believe me, I would do anything in my power. I would do.
Oh, the saddie face comes out. The Alec Baldwin saddie face. The eyebrows lifted and the saddie face comes out. You hit the saddie face from Alec Baldwin. He'd do anything to take all those bullets, deaths. But if you know anything about the Twilight, I'd love to cover. I'm fascinated by Twilight set tragedy and how all those people bamboozled. One of the LA's longest, most expensive trials. I feel like a lot of underhanded, sleazy type stuff was done by the defense in that. And here, I think we're going to get Alec Baldwin on the stand. We're going to get a lot of actors testifying. But yeah, he's really going to fight this very, very hard. But he's also facing more time. There's more charges, Alec Baldwin, than Hannah.
Anything in my power to undo what was done. I don't know how that bullet arrived in that gun. I don't know. But I'm all for doing anything that will take us to a place where this is less likely to happen again.
Every single time I'm handed a gun on a set, every time, Mark, they hand me a gun, I look at it, I open it, I show it to the person I'm pointing it to, we show it to the crew. Every single take, you hand it back to the armor when you're done, you do it again. Right. Everyone does it. Everybody knows it.
How do you respond to actors like George Clooney who say that every time they were handed a gun, they checked it themselves?
Well, there were a lot of...
Because he's a professional and he cares about other people. So much of the way everything was done, it was all about Alec Baldwin. Quick, 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 quick. I want to get this shot done. I want to save money. I want to get this done quickly and done just sloppily and done at a D+, C- level, and the people that he got because he was so cheap and the way it was run was so crappy. If the state is smart, that was what they're going to be hammering home. Not this to actors and the SAG guideline for actors. Because there's SAG guidelines, then and if those were really sufficient, then why is all this gun safety required? And why did OSHA fine them the highest fine, meaning at workplace safety, that they could? And you can talk about all the other producers, but they weren't on set. Alec Baldwin was on set. He was the person in power. If the state is smart, that is going to be their argument.
People who felt it necessary to contribute some comment to the situation, which really didn't help the situation at all. You have if your protocol is you check the gun every time, well, good for you. Good for you. You know what I mean? I probably handled weapons as much as any other actor in films with an average career. Again, shooting or being shot by someone. And in that time, I had a protocol, and it never let me down.
Why did you choose in your 40 years not to check the gun yourself?
What I was taught by...
Why did you choose to hire an armorer who only worked on one other film? Who was a woman who you coincidentally bossed around? Why did you choose that? Why did you choose to do business in that manner? Was this a tax write-off? This cross-examination, if he gets up on the stand, it's going to be very interesting.
Someone years ago was, as I said, if I took a gun and I popped a clip out of a gun or I manipulated the chamber of a gun, they would take the gun away from me and redo it. The prop person said, don't do that, when I was young. And they'd say, one thing you would need to understand is we don't want the actor to be the last line of defense against a catastrophic breach of safety with the gun.
Yeah, why did you keep the armorer out of the church? So she couldn't do her job. So she couldn't watch what you were doing. Why didn't you put it in the script? Why were you pointing a gun and cocking it? I'm not even going to deal with the finger on the trigger. Forget that. Because the detective brought up a very good point. You do that naturally. The motion of cocking the gun by its nature, it's very hard. Try to move your thumb and not engage your trigger finger. It's very hard to do. This is probably sleep deprived. He's on a set. He's away from his home. Things are going badly. They're getting a late start. But the best thing for Alec Baldwin would be to just retire, sell your $17 million mansion, deal with these civil suits, and just retire. That was his first instinct, first impulse, right impulse, Alec Baldwin. You were right on for the right on there. But he had to finish his great movie Rust. His great the sled, his great Rosebud, right? Great Rosebud movie. This is his great movie. Give me a break. I mean, all this. And don't have any more kids. You're looking more and more like Mia Farrow and Angela Jolie with this tribe of kids. Like you cannot get, I know that there are families, people have big families, but they're not led by these kind of Hollywood stars. I mean, I'm of the opinion that no one in Hollywood who has a job in Hollywood should have children. It is just not natural. All the nurturing energy goes to the creative person, not to the children. So stop having children, Alec Baldwin. That's my advice for you.
My job, they told me, man or woman, my job is to make sure the gun is safe, and then I hand you the gun and I declare the gun safe. The crew's not relying on you to say that it's safe. They're relying on me to say that it's safe. When that person who was charged with that job handed me the weapon, I trusted them, and I never had a problem.
And this was from the beginning of your career?
From day one. There's one person that's supposed to make sure that what is in the gun is right and that what's wrong is not in the gun.
Yeah, I rely on the armorer and the assistant director so I can point and fire and cock the gun at abandon. And those are my new safety rules. Thank you. Thank you, Alec Baldwin. Before I go, let's just watch a little bit more of Alec Baldwin's inappropriate Instagram posts, shall we?
The magical gun that fires without pulling the trigger. That truth.
Right. Exactly. Pockets
That's
of
what
the future.
I'm
Exactly.
working toward, insisting on, demanding that the...
He's they wouldn't, otherwise, if he wasn't demanding it, they'd be trying to push lies. But since he's demanding the truth, they're getting the truth.
The organizations involved in this investigation do everything in their power to find out what really happened. That's all that matters.
You point your...
Alec Baldwin wanted to go into politics for a while. It was going around the New York press that he wanted to run for Senate. He's very connected to our Democratic Party. And the first prosecutor... Oh, this is another issue that I didn't go into that they're going to really be highlighting. So The FBI testing the gun did a zillion tests. In one of those tests, I believe, was dropping it on the ground and hitting it with a hammer. So when it was like dropped on the ground and hit with a hammer, after being cocked, it could fire. And so Alec Baldwin's defense team is like, look, this is inaccurate information going out that this gun can fire without being pulled. So the FBI broke the gun doing those kinds of tests, dropping it on the ground, hitting it with a hammer. That's how hard they had to how much force they had to push. So his legal team is like, yes, even a squeeze, even if you look at this gun wrong, it goes off. It didn't like Alec Baldwin's. What does he call it? What does he call it at the beginning of this? He had a weird continence, or what was it he used? Sorry, hold on. I'm at 14 something. It's like around 1724. He had a weird.
Starts off touching his face and collecting his thoughts and running his fingers through his hair. He's looking pretty rough. This eye is definitely a lot more closed than that eye. Big, giant, colossal cursor nose.
Went to my friend's house, my friend David's house this morning.
He went to his friend David's house.
He came out with his daughter, who's dear friends with my daughter.
You didn't shoot her, right? You didn't shoot her.
Carmen. And he had a very unusual countenance to him.
He had sort of a
countenance. Yes, I was right. A weird countenance. He had a weird countenance to him. So let's get over these Splenda packet, and we've been to this weird, inappropriate Instagram. This is where he's talking about the smoking, I believe, in one of these. And I love that he's objecting that he didn't use the monitor on set, meaning, Jerry Lewis actually developed one of those playback monitors so that you could see what it would look like on film. He apparently had a genius IQ. So he used one of those monitors for his ashtray, for his cigars, and they're objecting to that and saying that didn't happen. How would you make that up? How would you make that detail up? Those are one of those details that are just too weird to make up. But, I mean, it's possible, but is it probable? Is it likely? No. All right, let's just watch a second of this. Oh, I'm sorry, guys. Let me go back. Oh, here's some other weird Instagram reading stuff.
Sincerely, Addison D.
Addison D.
So these are another. So he's reading nice notes that he got. Yeah, let's go back. This is really interesting, too. This is very much like the Splenda packet. He's reading nice notes. So it's like a call to arms. Everyone treat Alec Baldwin nicely. He's going through a nice time. Have pity. Because he really, really, really appreciates these notes. He even reads them out. He's going to send gifts. He's going to frame them. He's worrying about the loss of his Splenda packet. Not that he's a past middle age, fading A-list actor who uses Splenda, who dreamed this up. No, he's getting Splenda notes from young people who just want to write funny notes that look an awful lot like his handwriting on Splenda packets. But here's another one of these notes he shares. This is where I think I'll leave it for today, right around here.
The guy's daughter, I'm going to find this for you. Hold on one second.
Your stories are so epic.
His daughter, her name is, we contacted her father, and he said it was cool to mention her on this post. Her name is Addison, and she wrote me a note, and my sister Jane sent it to me. And
do you think so? Do you think he asked? Because I'm getting the feeling he didn't ask at all. He has that weird cough. They asked. He does that weird cough thing. Sorry, did I just blow out your eardrums, everybody? Sorry. So happy Roberta let the boyfriend out. Oh, thanks, Shari. Someone left a comment that they didn't like. They're like, I prefer to hear from you. I felt so sad. Sad for my boyfriend. I always heard her say, my boyfriend, my boyfriend, is it like band camp? And at band camp, and my boyfriend, Okay, so hold on. Let me read the whole thing, Shari. So happy Roberta let the boyfriend out. I always heard her say, my boyfriend, and now we know he really exists. Or does he? Or is that just a voice changer? Put the pepinos on it, on the Larry Baldwin Reddit. They'll get to the bottom. No, he really does exist. Thank you, Shari. Yeah. It's funny. He's still sending me stuff about we're still arguing it out about Karen Reed and her guilt. Sharon, what am I talking about tonight? All right, let's get back to this.
He's getting support from all these young girls.
The note says,
please don't shoot.
Dear Mr. Baldwin, I am so sorry for what has happened and for what you are going through.
Exactly. You shot somebody, and it's just so hard on you. And your wife pretended to be an ethnicity that she wasn't. Just generally pompous and arrogant and kind of a douche. And I can't believe this is happening to you.
There are lots of people thinking of you and praying for you.
I'm sorry that this happened to such a wonderful A-list star and not all the millions of people who aren't Alec Baldwin, the not Alec Baldwin people. Why did it happen to you, the great Alec Baldwin? That's what I hear. That's the subtext of this. Did he write this too? Does this guy exist? I don't play poker with Alec Baldwin. That would be the tell.
Keep you and the other families involved in our thoughts and prayers. Sincerely, Addison D.
Addison D. She thinks everybody love Alec.
And here is her note. And
it's a bluebird of happiness. There's the bluebird down here. Here's her note. He wants to make sure that you know, since he lost the Splenda packet, that this note is real. So you know that everybody really loves him. And all those people who are leaving bad comments, all those people who are making videos about him, all those people who are relishing his collapse, they're the minority. The majority of people are like Addison and the Splenda girl, and they just support the shit out of Alec.
Right. They're the innocence of a child. Bright pockets of the future. I can whisper too. The innocent child, the children who see the truth, who are so innocent. They see the goodness in Alec, and they see what a travesty this is for Alec Baldwin. But yeah, that's a good point, pockets of the future. This came out after the Splenda note was a failure. He enlisted his friend's kid to write a note, or maybe he wrote this with his opposite hand, with his left hand. I think he's right-handed. And when both of these with a drawing, very interesting. Let's wait. Hold on one second. Let me pull this for a second. And
the person has that responsibility to maintain the gun. And
what is the?
Whoops. Sorry, guys. Sorry. Whoops. It's getting late. And I'm getting a little loose with the sharing feature here. All right, hold on one second. But I want to see this with the Splenda Gate picture one more time and compare it to the Bluebird and his picture. So these are Alec Baldwin's inappropriate drawings. His inappropriate Splenda packet. Or no, let me say his alleged. We haven't had it forensically analyzed, but you should put these pepinos on some of these cases. They might do better. Comedian. Something wrote comedian. Splenda comedian, Splenda. And then a red, white, and blue. This is interesting. Sort of like a red, white, and blue drawing, not like someone who's really interested in politics and interested in American politics. And I'm pretty sure he wrote that. I'm 100% sure that the Splenda story didn't happen. I'm just not sure. It looks like he wrote it, but I can't be 100%. You never can be 100%, but it sure does look like his handwriting. All right, back. I think we should continue on with a little bit more of the news story. Addison, forget Splenda. Forget the Splenda story. The Splenda story never happened. Anyone who tells it happened should consider the source.
There's the copy. And then she, at the bottom, is there kind of enlargements at the bottom? She wrote this bird.
She wrote this bird right here. It's a bluebird of happiness.
And,
Wait, let's go back there. You can see. So you see, right here, you can see the white out. There's white out right here. It used to say Hilaria. And she whited it out and wrote Addison.
And, that's in my computer, so I'm going to save that forever.
Forever, ever.
Feel like this forever, 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 ever, forever, ever.
Forever, 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 forever. Like this live stream, it's been going on forever, forever, forever. What does Looper say? Says, I suspect they'll be bringing in experts to say gun safety on set has to do with blanks and eye safety, not to protect against live rounds. But the state makes a good point that it could have been killed just like Brandon Lee was with blanks. But he thought they were dummies, which is something else. But, I mean, it's one thing to be told cold gun. It's another thing to point it, cock it, and fire it right at a group of people near you. It's so aggressive. And there's been stories going around. Doesn't mean they're true. Doesn't mean they're true about him putting up a gun to someone's head. And the director, I believe, someone on the set telling the armorer to lock up the guns around Alec Baldwin. There's this, like I said before, he was in a fantasy, either as a character or himself, of shooting at that time. Either that's what you're doing when you're enacting that. You're playing a fantasy. I just want to hear more about his relationship with Helena Hutchins and his feelings on set and his feelings towards the people who walked out and what was really going on that morning. But these people all lie, and Alec Baldwin is powerful, but depends how powerful he still is. That really will depend. It seems like a lot of them were lying on the stand. We heard from David Hall said, oh no, I didn't hand him the gun, even though he admitted it earlier. He said he didn't check, but he said in his testimony that Hannah handed Alec the gun, and now that's what his lawyers are going with. It's pretty interesting filing. A lot of stuff in it, a lot of news articles, and they're really watching. Wouldn't be surprised if they're even watching this channel. They seem to be watching all the media surrounding Alec Baldwin. Even this tiny.
I mean, I've had more people who have been kind and thoughtful and generous of spirit than I've had, people who are malignant about.
They're just malignant. They do things like shoot people in the face and pretend to be ethnicities that they aren't, and fake.
Fake.
The death of Helena Hutchins. I'm not afraid to say that.
He's not afraid to say her name.
Yeah. See, he knows he doesn't say it. He doesn't say it because there's some sort of tension between those two. if you believe the rules of statement analysis, which some of the basic rules seem to me to be common sense.
Can say it. He's not afraid. Why would he be afraid?
And to couch that in some euphemism, somebody died very tragically, and I've
wow, just no depth of feeling. This is why I feel he's not for me. I don't feel a lot with his dramatic acting. I respond much more to him as a comic actor. Just nothing. I feel nothing when he says these things. I don't sense sadness. I don't sense guilt. I sense annoyance. I sense anger at Hannah Gutierrez Reed. I sense anger at Helena Hutchins. And I think I'm going to leave it here for today. Please hit the thumbs up, everybody. If you could do that right now, that would be huge help for the algorithm. Subscribe to the channel. Share this episode. Leave me a 5-star review on Apple Podcasts. And I'll be back tomorrow at 6 p.m. Eastern with another live episode. Have a great Saturday night, everybody.